And my project partner is Manish. Today we are going to give a presentation on a game which we have created, which is called the Conway's Game of Life. So these are all the contents which we wanted to follow throughout our presentation. This game was invented by John Conway in 1970. This game of life is actually not a game in the conventional sense, as there are no players involved in this game, so there is no winning or losing. Um, Once the pieces are placed in the starting position, basically the rules determine everything that happens later. Nevertheless, we know that life is full of surprises, and in this game, in most of the cases, it is impossible to look at the starting position or the pattern and see what will happen in the future. The only way to find this out is to follow the rules of the game. So coming to the design part, as we know that for our first project we have just used the HTML and CSS, and following that we just use the PHP. But to build this game we have used all of these languages: HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, and SQL. Talking about the rules of the game, there are four rules basically in this game. There are So basically, before getting to the rules, Game of Life is actually a two-dimensional grid of square cells where each of which is in one of the two possible states, alive or dead. So every cell interacts with its eight neighbors, which are the cells that are horizontally, vertically, or diagonally adjacent to each other. And at each step, these rules apply. So the first one is the live cell with fewer than two live neighbors dies. The second one is live cell with two or three live neighbors dies. The third one is live cell with more than three live neighbor dies. The fourth one is the dead cell with exactly three live neighbors becomes a live cell. So going forward, let me just show you the demo of a project. So this is basically the sign-in page. So just to show you that we have implemented the form verification. So you can see that we have implemented the form verification here. So before sign in, we have also made a registration page where the user can register. From the backend, we have connected it to the MariaDB where the data is stored in the COD server. So let me just skip the registration part and sign in to show you how our game looks like. So this is a basic user interface of our game, and from here on Manish will continue some parts of the presentation.
Yeah. Hi, this is Manish. This is our game UI. So here it's just like you need to select a pattern and on click of start, the just rules apply and the UI changes. So on click of pause, the game will rest. Here we just used two containers where we'll show generation count and population count. Generation count is nothing but then number of calls it made, like for every version, even increment of generation a rules will be apply once. So it's just like generations. And the population is like number of cells alive at that particular generation. So we implemented even single step generation increment and 23 generations increment, and the game continues if you just continue pause, and when you click on reset the whole UI resets. Here we also implemented we were asked to implement these different kinds of patterns for still life, oscillator, gliders, guns, and this is just a random functionality. So even we use this dynamic size implementation, 30, 40, 50 size. And when you click on scoreboard it will just show you the scores of recently played players, and the score is calculated based on generation count. So the more the game is alive for the more generations, the more the score will be. So when we come to our code snippets, it's better, I guess I'll show in the Sublime. So this is our main functionality. We wrote all our code in our JavaScript application. So on click of start, we created a table. The UI you just saw was a table with around 40 cells, 40 into 100 cells. So on click of live, the cell will be turned to red color, and normally it will be green color. So here we applied the rules that were discussed, but the main motto was it should count its neighbors to either step up or step down. So we wrote a new count neighbors functionality where it will count it neighbors. uh, if the neighbor is live, like there are rules, right? If two neighbors are live, then it should die, or if more than two are live, then it should leave, the cell should leave. So we just implemented this count neighbors functionality. Compute next gen is like, so for every generation the call of compute next gen will be made so that we can count number of generations. So the step handler and step 2 button handler are like, this one is for increment 1 increment and this one is for 23 increments of the generations. And start button handler, on click of start the game actually starts, and we here used inner HTML functionality to convert it internally into pause or continue. So on click of start, that will continue to pause. If it pause, then it will ask you to continue. So we used inner HTML functionality. And for clear button handler, it's just like, once you select any pattern, and if you want to clear, you just need to the press reset button. On click of reset button, this clear button handler will be called. And this random button, we just implemented this wasn't asked, but yeah, we wanted to make experiment. So on click of random, it randomly makes cells alive. The probability will be around 40% probability that a cell can be alive, and 60% it can be dead. These are the patterns, code for patterns. And the challenging part was we need to make communication from our HTML page to JavaScript page. So here we used document.getElementID functionality, where on click of any button we just popped up a ID. So using that ID, we generated a JavaScript file. Using that ID, it will call that functionality. So yeah, population count, and this is all clear count. So once you complete the game, if you clear it, the score should come to 0. So for that we implemented this. So now Srikar will take from here.
Before going to the tools we have used, we just wanted to show you that we have also implemented the SQL verification as well. So just to show you that if a user creates with the same email ID, for example, I'm using mine here. Um, so if a user creates with the same email ID, it shows us that someone already registered with this email address. So we have implemented the form validation and the SQL verification as well. And also, as mentioned, we have also designed an admin page, where the admin page, let me just show you that. So this is basically the admin page, where only we have given access to only admin. So like, if once the admin logs into this, it gives the details of all the players. So he has the control to edit those, edit a record or delete a record, basically perform the CRUD operations on that. And you can also visit this, view the person's scores. Like you can see here, like if I view the scores of this person, the scores get populated here. Let me just show you the edit functionality so that it works. um, Let me just edit the full name. We have also encrypted the password here, just to mention that. So the record gets updated. As you can see here, it got updated. So coming back to the presentation, so the tools we have used for this project were, for writing the PHP and HTML forms, we used Visual Studio Code. And to connect to the cod DB, as Mac doesn't have putty installed, so we have gone with SQL Pro by using SSH, which is connected to the MariaDB. We have also used XAMPP and Sublime and Atom editor as well. So coming to the challenges and future scope, Manish will be talking about this.
Yeah, the main challenges we faced here are like send and retrieve scores from database. We need to send our timestamp and scores to database, and it should be populated as we play the game. So for every generation increment it should update there, because there might be a chance of debugging. And game design, we need to come up with an idea on how to show those cells, and also we then thought of implementing a table, and we converted each row and cell into designs. And form authentication, we had to authenticate those forms. For example, when you click email, so if there is no @gmail or anymail.com, that is not a valid mail. So those were the authentications we made. And animation, see, when we play the game, it's like it just complete, so we a user need to interact with the game. So we incremented every generation for 1 second, and we used animations for that. The patterns, we had to implement those guns and all oscillators, and also, yeah, these are the challenges we faced. And the future scope, we can implement email authentication. Like when a user registers, we need to know if a user is, user is trusted or not. So on email authentication we can achieve that. And we can develop this game using React, which will be like more interactive. So these are the things we were planning to do as a future scope. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.